welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Immigration. And with me, I have two bad attorneys, really good attorneys that just happen to be my good friends and now law partners. To my right, we have South Florida's finest, one of the baddest criminal attorneys there, immigration attorney, personal injury attorney, Attorney Jaime. To my left, the OG, the list. I don't have enough time to really go down the list with Attorney Skinner Lewis, real juggernaut in the game. And we're just here to talk. And we also have something to share with you about our collaboration. So, gents, thank you for joining me.
Thank you
house. Yeah, to be here, It's been a blessing to be able to have these two guys as my friends and then know law partners. But we'll dive into some stuff right now. What's hot off the press, attorney here? Talk to me. So Jaime and I will kind of dive in a little bit about criminal and immigration, and then of course some stuff for the Caribbean people and what's hot right now.
Well, in terms of what's hot right now, everybody's talking about the Vibes Cartel case. Is Vibes Cartel going to be released from custody? Based on the evidence I saw presented at the Privy Council, his attorneys did an excellent job at the Privy Council level.
Yeah.
And I really hope justice allows Vibes Cartel to be released from custody. Because what the Privy Council said was that Vibes Cartel did not get a fair trial. So you have to understand that Vibes Cartel was in prison for about 13 years.
Yeah.
Because based on what the Privy Council said, he did not receive a fair trial because the jurors there was some corruption or manipulation or issues with the jurors that made it seem as though the jurors were impartial.
Yeah.
They decided the facts. They made a decision not only on what was presented in evidence, but what was happened outside of court, outside of the evidence. And what should have happened was the judge should have declared a mistrial and given Vibes Cartel a new trial. Instead, they proceeded, and he was in custody for 13 years based on not having a fair trial. And this is something I say all the time in the criminal game, where people, especially in the United States, where we as immigrants, if you're not a United States citizen, if you accept certain pleas in the criminal court, it could cause it to get deported. Because you have immigration consequences. So we are seeing now with the Vibes Cartel case saying, you never got a fair trial. But what does that really mean? When you are arrested in America, in Broward County, Miami-Dade, Orlando, anywhere, did you get a fair trial?
Yeah.
Did you get a fair chance in your case? How did you defend your case?
Okay. And hold on. So just to give people context as to why Attorney Jaime here can even speak on this issue. Jaime is a former prosecutor for the state of Florida, and currently in your win column, you have not lost a murder trial to date.
Well, as of today's date, the date of this recording, don't jinx me, Sekou, because I have another one coming up in a couple months. But as of the date of this recording today, I have never lost a homicide trial, attempted murder, no murder. But that doesn't mean that, I will never lose one, or I guarantee you wouldn't say anything like that.
Right.
Coincidentally, as of today's date, I haven't lost one.
Yeah. Okay.
I have one coming for a few months, so don't jinx me, please.
No. No jinx at all. And I think what Jaime was going into is, especially like a lot of immigrants, when they do have convictions or arrests on their record, a lot of times they accept pleas without knowing the immigration consequences.
Right. I see that happen all the time. That's one of the major problems, because I always encourage my clients to fight a case, especially if it's going to have immigration consequences. No matter what the police report says. When clients come to me and tell me police lie, I believe them. When they say, the police report is wrong, I believe them. And once we start fighting the case, you have to fight the case. Because if you take a plea to something that's going to get you deported from the United States, just because you're scared of fighting the case, because you're scared of what police, you're scared of going to trial, and it has detrimental immigration consequences for you to get deported from the United States, you're always going to wonder, I wonder what if I fought that case. So when I take on a case, we look at immigration consequences. We make sure we cover all of the bases. We do everything necessary to try to get that client the best resolution. Whether it doesn't always have to be a trial. We could work the case up and show the state that they have a weak case and ask to change the charge to something that's immigration friendly. But I hate to see when people take criminal pleas and it has immigration consequences, and immigration consequence cannot be fixed because as you know, certain crimes make it mandatory that you can't get certain relief.
Yeah, so they're like, it's a twofold part of that. So I know the way how we have collaborated is if I get a client who has a conviction for some type of felony, but there were issues with the criminal case, but we cannot fix it on the immigration case. Sometimes I call up Jaime and I'm like, hey, what can we do here? And then you would go into post-conviction relief.
Yes.
Whereas, when you explain the post-conviction relief.
Yes, that is an option available. Sometimes there are time limits as to after you take a plea as to when you can file a post-conviction motion. But we have done post-conviction motions in the past. We've gotten charges dropped, charges changed to a more immigration friendly charge. So that is an option with criminal cases. If you jump and take a plea, sometimes we can file a post-conviction motion. But
so what that means is essentially the person who is now in immigration proceedings would now have to go back to the state or county court that they got the criminal conviction. They have to reopen that criminal case and then try to get a different type of resolution. Then come back to us on the immigration side and say, okay, judge, well, that previous conviction is now down to a misdemeanor, which is more favorable on the immigration side.
100% accurate. Not only if the person going through immigration court, sometimes people have been deported.
Yeah.
And they try to come back to the United States, but they have a bar because of a criminal case.
Yeah.
So if it's within the time frame, you can file a post-conviction motion.
Yeah.
And ask the court or ask the prosecutor their discretion, especially with drug charges.
Yeah.
Where now marijuana is becoming more friendly. You can ask the prosecutor their discretion. When this person was convicted of this crime, maybe he wasn't selling marijuana, he just smokes a lot of marijuana. Like, now you can go to medical marijuana lab and get the same amount. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and one thing I wanted to tell people as to which crimes, right? I mean, it's a long list of crimes, arrests, and convictions that can affect you from an immigration standpoint. So the first thing that you want to realize, the standard that immigration uses is crime involving moral turpitude. So if within 5 years of you entering the US on a visa, on a green card, if you get a conviction within the first 5 years of your entry into the United States, that makes you deportable, whether you're a green card holder or whether you're a B1, B2 visa entry person, right? However, if you don't have a crime within the first 5 years of entering the United States, right? If you have 2 crimes involving moral turpitude while you are in the US, so outside of the 5-year mark, those 2 convictions will make you deportable. So it doesn't have to be a felony, right? It just has to be a crime involving moral turpitude. What qualifies crimes like burglary, theft over a certain amount, battery, domestic violence, 2 crimes involving moral turpitude will make you deportable, which means you are going into removal proceedings where you have to know, tell the judge that you have a relief from deportation. And then the third thing is that if at any time you have an aggravated felony, which is a crime involving violence, and there's a list of crimes. So if you have 1 aggravated felony, you are immediately deportable. So it can be if you are in the country for 15, 20 years, there's no time limit. Once you have 1, you will now have to go through removal proceedings.
And what's important to note, I don't want to stop you, but with the aggravated felony, you cannot get an immigration bond. The immigration judge's hands are tied in terms of giving an immigration bond. So before you take a plea,
what would be the solution? Is it to get your full citizenship?
That's always this
Because once you're a full citizen, at that point you have the same rights and you're not deportable, correct?
Correct, but there are some different steps that we'd have to go through to try to get you your residency.
Because it's a process. Yeah,
It's a process.
you work your way up to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and we'd have to file waivers. I mean, sometimes there are ways out, but sometimes there's no way out depending on the crime. So, I mean, what I always tell people is if you have convictions with trafficking, right? Not possession of narcotics, but trafficking of narcotics, it's almost a goodbye. Like, I really don't take those type of cases. Or if it involves certain type of crimes involving a firearm, whether you're shooting somebody or mishandled a firearm, those are usually really tough to defend as well.
And the firearm case is actually, the firearm offense is actually a good example. Because if you're convicted of possession of a firearm, the police stop you, have a firearm in your waist, you get convicted, you say, there's no way to beat it, or even if the firearm's in your vehicle, and you think there's no way of beating the case, so the state offers you probation. So I want to end the case. I'm just take probation. If you're not a resident, even if you are a resident but you don't have a concealed weapons permit, you now end up in immigration proceedings, and an easy fix to that would have been, how about you change the charge from possession of firearm to possession of a weapon?
Correct.
That is the immigration fix.
Correct.
But before accepting that's a prime example. Like before you accept a plea, that's a perfect example. Possession of a firearm, you're going to go into removal proceedings. Possession of a weapon, no.
Correct. So it's very important that you have an attorney that understands
Exactly.
and give you a strategy.
Yep. And then before we switch over to Attorney Skinner, so if and when Vybz Kartel is released, right, do you think he would be able to get back a US visa? I know a lot of Jamaican artists who have had issues with getting back their visa to enter the US. What do you think those possibilities are?
You know what? I think the best person to answer that question is the best immigration attorney I know. It's a Sekou Clarke. I saw Sekou get a visa for a cheerleader. When I spoke to other attorneys and I said, my partner got a visa for someone who was a cheerleader, they said, Jamaica's a cheerleading team? So I think the best person to answer that question is the job right here.
We're both the immigration, but I've been asked that question a lot. And I mean, I have represented certain artists who have tried to get back their visa. So the biggest thing that they're going to look at is admissibility, right? They will now look and see, well, did he have previous charges, right? And then this particular case, it's so unique because it's high profile, right? So if, for instance, they say it was a complete mistrial, right? And it's no longer on his record as an actual charge. Well, I mean, there is a case to be fought, but again, it's so high profile. And the way how immigration works is that, I mean, even with a conviction or no conviction, they can still look at the pleadings and make a determination to see if this person will be a danger to society. So if Mr. Palmer comes out and he makes a positive impact on the community and he's no longer deemed a threat, I can definitely see where there is some type of possibility.
Right.
Yeah. So that's just my personal opinion based on certain other cases and seeing other people who have had issues in their past get back their visa. All right, so now we're going to turn it over to Mr. Skinner, Attorney Skinner. And Skinner grew up in South Florida, of Haitian descent. Tell me some of the problems that you typically see Haitians encounter in South Florida, from immigration or just criminal or personal injury standpoint. I mean, what do you see them facing?
Well, I think the Haitian community has a specific problem. When you're Jamaican, at least English is a base of your language.
Yeah.
But when you're Haitian, you speak a totally different language.
Yeah.
Our language is French-based, so it's Creole. And most of the Haitian kids, when I was coming up, we had to speak English for our parents. So I think the Haitian reality was almost like we were raising our parents wasn't raising us.
Yeah.
Because we knew more what was going on than them due to the language barrier.
Yeah.
So what I realized when I came to South Florida, there was a huge Haitian versus Black American type of friction, just because there was a high influx of new Haitians coming in. They didn't really know what's going on. In the Black American community, you also had we all were trying to share those resources. That was very limited. So me growing up, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of, getting your respect and things of that nature. But for my brothers, my little brother and my little nephew's generation now, everything is iron. Everything is good. Everybody's the same basically now, because that's what happens when you have that new influx. But growing up Haitian, I mean, the biggest thing was really the community is very tight because of the language. The community is very tight because all the Haitians kind of came from the same area. So based on what area you came from in Haiti, you knew you were either going to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, or New York or Boston. So it's all kind of like the same demographic. They would all open up in the same city where they came from, the same city in Haiti. So you see a lot of that. And then the other thing that I think is very big in the Haitian community is they're a very faithful community. So they're big in church. So you have a very big spiritual background with that. And for me, my goal was, and the things that I saw, was a lot of the Haitian community, because they were scared of police in Haiti, they gave the police here in the United States too much authority and power. Because they didn't know there's laws and regulation here.
Got it.
So they came out of a phase that was called Totomaku, like back in the 70s and 80s, where it was more of a dictatorship. So you didn't really have rights. The Totomaku could do whatever they want. So here, when the police come to their house, they don't know that they have a right to say, do you have a warrant? Don't come in. They overshare information because they just want to be compliant. And the language barrier, they will say yes to things that they don't even know what's being said. Right. So one of the things that really motivated me in becoming an attorney is I wanted to be that voice. I wanted to educate them in their language, let them know the rights that they have so they don't put themselves in these bad situations.
Got it. How was it growing up seeing like the natural disasters in Haiti and a lot of people coming over for TPS, asylum? I mean, how was that for you, like seeing them come here and having to try to navigate being documented versus undocumented, or trying to seek asylum or TPS?
I'll give you two things. That earthquake was so big, there's not a Haitian person it did personally affect. My brother lost his mother-in-law. I have friends that lost their parents there. I have personal friends that died there. So it was a major event that across the diaspora, it impacted the entire Haitian community. And I remember when it happened, you could kind of feel this just overall sadness for the community seeing this happen. I mean, it was a great opportunity from the American standpoint that a lot of Haitians didn't have an opportunity to come over with TPS. A lot of Haitians that were already here illegally got an opportunity to do the TPS and establish status. So, and what's crazy, I was just asking you this because the TPS is still ongoing. We're talking about 2010, right? So it's like 14 years later, you still have people with TPS status. So I think one of the biggest things in the United States, even in this election, is to start talking about that path to citizenship. Right? You can't keep having people renew every 2 years, every 2 years. At some point, I've established myself. I've shown myself what is the path to citizenship. So,
hold on. So
go ahead.
I sort of agree, but just to interject right now, so the American Immigration Council, they did submit something to Congress as to like, look, there needs to be a path to citizenship for people who have been here for years undocumented.
That makes sense.
And that they can prove that they have ties to the U.S. So that has been sent.
That is amazing.
Yes, I mean, Biden, he spoke about it before he came into the office. I mean, it's almost 4 years later and nothing has happened, but there's a big push to try to establish something because it makes sense. I mean, you have people here who have been here for 20, 30 years. They have been paying taxes. They have been working. They have started businesses. They have contributed to the fabric of the United States. But unfortunately, they do not have the requisite paperwork to either work legally, to travel, but they are contributing members of society. But don't get me wrong, all right? I have some people attack me, some Americans who attack me and say, hey, you are for this border crisis and you're for illegal immigration. Definitely not. I do not advocate illegal immigration. I mean, people should join the line and do it right, just like everybody else. I do not advocate for for immigrants who are coming across the border who have known criminal records and who are dangerous people and who don't have the intention to come and make the society better. People who are coming here to squat
Yeah.
and create felonies. No, those are not the people who we want here, because you have so much other good immigrants out here who are really coming here trying to serve or trying to
That's
start
very
businesses.
polarizing. That's just the news highlighting those. But that's less
100%.
than 1%.
Exactly.
Everyone that's coming here wants a better life.
Yes,
No one's
majority.
coming- majority, right?
Yeah.
So that's the problem when you put that out in the news and you hold that up. Look, this immigrant did this.
Right.
We have to be scared of all immigrants.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know that argument doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, so like turning it back to Haiti and Haitians. So
Yeah.
no, I mean, there were a couple natural disasters.
Yes.
That I mean really destabilized the country,
Yes.
destabilized the government. But no, again, it seems like history is repeating itself, because now you have political instability
Yeah.
in Haiti again.
So the biggest thing about history
Yeah.
is it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
What's crazy is the gang leader now that named Barbecue, that's, he's liberated all the gangs and they're trying to do a coup d'etat in Haiti. He's actually pointing way back to the earthquake. What did y'all do with that money?
Oh.
And saying that there was $4 billion, $5 billion, $6 billion raised. None of the money touched the people. And now he's saying, if we had an opportunity to get that money, but the corrupted politicians kept it for themselves and took care of the bourgeois in Haiti, this is why you're going to have unrest now. The gas is going up. There's no jobs. So he's putting himself as like a Toussaint Louverture, but the way that they're going about it is not following the political machine. They're not going through the proper legal way. It's the revolution way.
Yeah.
And that's one of the issues that Haiti faces a lot. Every new election cycle, the politics is so almost it's very tribal to a point where in America you build on precedents. And that's why our system works so strong. If Obama puts something in place, it's going to take the new president a lot of loopholes to undo it. So once you move, you continue to build on it. With the Haitian system, the new one coming, they break everything that the old one did and said we want to redo it and restructure it. So you're never having that continuity. So what you have going on there now is with the gangs is they're basically saying the people's going to take over the country. We're not going to wait for the politicians. We're not going to wait for the police. We're going to police our own communities. And when you have individuals doing that, you have that a lot of things can be taken advantage of, right? Because there's no process.
You know what I wanted to ask you. And we spoke about, you mentioned TPS, for people who are Haitians who are in America. What about humanitarian parole based on the country's conditions now? Mr. Clarke, I know you've done a lot of humanitarian paroles. I've done quite a few as well too.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm 100% sure that that the U.S. government will make some allowance for that right now. Whereas, based on the crisis, if there's an established fear for their life, medical attention, for evacuation purposes, I'm sure they're going to give some type of discretion for that. But again, because there have been so many back-to-back crises in Haiti, and then even up to last year, there wasn't really a crisis, but then you had a lot of Haitians coming across the border.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more scrutiny in terms of how you're going to let people in and granting humanitarian parole, or even just granting a possibility for asylum. But I mean, there is a process for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There is a process for that. But again, with Haiti, it's been so many moving parts over the last decade that I'm sure, again, there will be some type of discretion, but it's going to come under scrutiny.
Right.
Because, I mean, you were telling me about a case that you had up to last week where the person was, a couple of weeks ago, that the person was definitely deportable, but because of the political instability right now, the judge was offering some type of discretionary relief so the person can stay until things kind of work themselves out, right?
Right, but we can't really throw that one in there.
We can't really throw that one in there.
Throw that one.
Yeah.
It's kind of more behind the scenes. But with it, in terms of humanitarian parole, as it is in Haiti for Haitians right now. I wish I saw more Americans applying for humanitarian parole for their family members in Haiti to come to the United States based on the current condition.
Here's what's very important, and I think that's gonna kind of go back to what we're doing here, the three of us, and creating One People Law. You gotta actually put that out there,
Right.
Yes.
What's going on in the Haitian community is you have these paper people that do multi-services, taxes,
Yes.
they're filling out paper.
The document preparer.
They're document preparers, and
Yeah.
they're in the heart of the community. They've been doing this for 10, 15 years. They're filling out, listen, personally, my sister, church members are filling out paperwork for people.
Right.
And they're keeping the money, they're controlling the email access. You don't know what's going on with your file. My own sister called me and said, listen, we're trying to help my mom bring in somebody. They paid somebody in the church the money. I had to call this thing and say, give my mom back her money, first of all, and you should not be controlling their email. This should be their application.
Right.
So a lot of people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that I want us to really do with our communities is be very careful who you trust.
Yes.
And we want to give an alternative
Yeah.
that you can come to us. We will do the consultations. We will make sure you're educated.
Yeah.
And it's better to do it right the first time.
Let me give you the perfect example talking about the importance of really contacting an attorney instead of just a regular paper preparer.
Yeah.
A document preparer is that a lady came to me a couple of years ago. She was in the United States for over 20 years. She had her green card. She used a document preparer to apply for her citizenship. She's working, successful, had a good job. And when the document preparer filled out her citizenship, she actually committed fraud, immigration fraud in the 80s. And when she did her fingerprints for her citizenship, it showed up. And she was placed in removal proceedings. And she came to me, I remember, like I said, she came to me with an envelope with a lot of money in it. And I said to her, there's nothing I can do. I'm sure you're going to knock on an attorney's door and they're going to take your money, but I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, there's nothing that can be done because you're renewed your green card, you're working, but then immigration never realized that you actually committed fraud under another name over 20 years ago.
Right.
So in that situation, she had gone to an attorney and said to the attorney,
From the
this
beginning.
is the situation.
Correct.
I would have said, I'm not even touching your case. Because if I touch your case, you're going to end up in removal proceedings.
In the future, you would have
Right.
made sure she did it the right way from the beginning.
So one of the things that I love about One People or the passion that we bring is that regardless of your background, regardless of your financial situation, our main goal is to help people.
Yeah.
Our main goal is to help people through the immigration process. So what I pride ourselves in is being honest with clients.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not about the money.
Correct.
It's not about, when it comes to the personal injury, that's a different matter. We fight hard to get the maximum amount of money.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
it comes on to immigration cases and criminal cases, it's about getting the best results.
Yeah.
Because we ourselves, Mr. Skinner, coming from Haiti, me and Sekou coming from Jamaica, we all have stories of friends who made a mistake. One of my best friends made a mistake. I don't want to talk about that. It's not a long story. I have a good friend of mine several friends of mine who made mistakes while we're all growing up.
Yeah.
And that simple mistake got them deported.
Yes.
Yeah.
And several times I look at it, I wonder if I was with them that day.
Correct.
Me being a young kid, being afraid of the police, and I've told the police anything they wanted to hear.
Correct.
And I would have been in that situation. So when people come to me, I just don't see a file and say, okay, this is this person's file. I see the family. I know the impact of what a criminal case can have on someone's immigration
Correct.
status.
Correct.
So I try everything to get them the best results. That's why, as a Sekou said, I've never lost a homicide case. When I take on a case, I'm not saying that I can't lose one. But when I take on a case, I don't leave any stones unturned. Police write a report and say, that's great. That's great that you wrote a report. But they don't know looking for the truth as to what happened.
Correct.
Yes.
They bring a police report to me and I say, oh, the police said this. I said, I don't care what the police report said.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what the eyewitnesses who weren't mentioned in that police report.
Now it's time to get to work. Exactly.
Because I know the impact that's not only going to have on that person, immigration-wise, getting into immigration problems, also for that person's family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the person has kids. I remember growing up when I was young, I had a family member who was arrested. And I remember how that affected the entire family. Because this was someone who was very active in the family, and he was no longer there.
Yeah.
So when I fight for clients, it's not because, I went to law school and I'm now a lawyer, that's what I'm supposed to. I fight with a passion.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is what, when I go up against prosecutors, they know I'm bringing that passion.
Yeah.
Bring
That-
the heat.
When I go into the courtroom, it's the same passion because I know what this family is going through. I take on the case like it's my
Correct.
own case.
Correct.
And I hate to see when people just say, you know what, I'm just going to fall out, I'm going to take the easy way out
Mhm.
and end up in serious immigration problems. But you mentioned something earlier, Skinner, in terms of the path to citizenship.
Yeah.
You know what is very troublesome to me, and something that I really gets me really upset, is when people qualify for citizenship. They've had their green card for over 5 years. They're married to a U.S. citizen. They qualify for citizenship,
Mm-hmm.
and they decide not to apply for citizenship. And then once they get into a criminal case,
I want to give you the perfect
weird.
example. I had a friend of mine. We all thought he was American. We all thought he was born here.
Mm.
His parents brought him here when he was a young kid. His parents never filed for citizenship. They never filed for him for citizenship. He gets a DUI situation, end up having to serve time. Him not knowing that him serving that time automatically put him in removal. As soon as he got out, they put him into deportation. They put him in coma.
Yeah.
And he got deported.
and he could have gotten his citizenship.
He just never thought about it.
That's crazy.
He never thought about doing it, but they were always qualified the whole time. That's why I'm saying the path to citizenship,
Yeah.
we're attorneys are very strategic. We want to have a safe harbor.
Yes.
So my
Yeah.
thing is, I want to become a citizen as soon as possible because I know deportation now is removed from the equation.
Exactly.
I'm gonna have
Right.
to serve my time. I'm gonna have to do this, but I'm never gonna
Yeah.
get deported.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad we're able to loop it together because that's one of the pillars that One People Law is built on, and it's creating access, giving that information. Because one thing that I've seen so much that has affected so many immigrants is just not knowing that
Correct,
you're
right.
eligible for citizenship,
Yes.
not knowing that you can file for other type of visas that leads to permanent residency that doesn't include marriage, providing information that you can use a business to get your residency, you can use your talent, you can use your ability as an author, as an athlete, as an entrepreneur, as a nurse to get your residency. So it's just really providing access and letting people know we're busting the myths as to there's only one way that you can come to the US. No. So that's one pillar that we're definitely building One People Law on, and that is creating access and really closing the gap so people have more resources to attorneys from a criminal, immigration, personal interest standpoint. That's what we're bringing, and we're bringing it to South Florida, right? So we decided to start this team again to create access, to provide information, to close the gap. And South Florida, we are now here, right? So there's going to be more details coming as to our first grand opening in South Florida. Then we do plan for more offices across the United States of just bringing one people, one voice, one power, and one big result.
Yeah.
Because growing up in Florida, there was no access to a lawyer.
Correct.
I never knew a lawyer that I could call to ask a question.
Mhm.
Right.
I know looking at it, and I saw so many of my friends make mistakes. And I said, maybe if they had access to a lawyer to tell me you have a Fifth Amendment right to
Correct.
remain silent, it would have made a difference. It could have probably still been in the United States. I'm assisting and get something to come back. But at the same time, that's why with One People Law, we are trying to give the access to all immigrants, Haitian, Jamaican, regardless of your background. If you're not a United States citizen and you need to talk to an attorney, we're here. We understand your story. We've been there. We know what you're going through.
Yeah.
We know what your family is going through. So we want to provide access to our immigrant community. So
And
our
Ja-
legal
Jamie,
services.
let me add on the personal injury side too. I've seen immigrants be afraid to have a personal injury case because of their status. And I want them to know that your status has nothing to do with your personal injury case. At all. In America, if you're injured, you are entitled compensation no matter what your status is.
You could be undocumented, you could have
Correct.
crossed the border, you could have overstayed, it doesn't matter. if you suffered injuries as the result of somebody else's negligence, you are entitled to an attorney and you are entitled to compensation.
And I want to share a story that actually happened in one of my cases where they had a major settlement and they used that money to get their status.
Yeah.
Right? They used that money to start getting things in order. They went and started working on their status. This person actually even opened a business with that money to the point now they're working their way to get their path to citizenship. So you want to be very creative. So when you put criminal, immigration, business, personal injury, you have finances in there. You have your rights being taken away in there. These are the most important things that you should know as a citizen. And we want to empower the community with that.
Right. Not only with person, but not only with immigration is the immigration status going to affect your personal injury case, which it's not. Sometimes people believe that just because they were accused of a crime, although they were injured and they were accused of a crime, they were a suspect, they're not entitled to compensation. That's wrong. Yeah. I remember someone came to me and they were being investigated by the police. It was about a shooting, and during this incident, he was shot. But he was worried about being investigated by the police. He came to me for the criminal side of it. I looked at it and I said, "No, you were shot.
You're the victim.
Let's look into this. The criminal case went nowhere. Yeah. And the focus now was on the personal injury case." And he was like, "No, yeah, I don't really want to move forward." I said, "Look, let me look into the personal injury case. Because with personal injury cases, you don't have to pay an attorney up front. It's all based on a contingency fee. If we spend $1 million to investigate a case and we lose, you don't owe us anything."
Correct.
So I took on this case, investigated the case, and that person is now a United States millionaire. There was a confidential settlement, but that person is now a United States millionaire, and he was being investigated, was involved in shooting, but he was shot as well.
I like, just to clarify, so under personal injury, right? Personal injury is so broad. So yes, there's auto accidents, which we do. But this specific case that Jaime is talking about is a negligent security.
Right. Yes.
Right. So there's premises liability, there's medical malpractice, there's workers' compensation if you were injured while at work. As long as you suffered some type of injury because somebody was negligent, right, where they had a duty to protect you or they had a duty to warn you, it falls under personal injury, which One People Law covers all of that.
Yes.
So stay tuned for more information about One People Law. We have our grand opening coming up in April in South Florida. There's going to be free consultations. More information will be dispersed. Stay tuned, and One